Okay, ready for today's deep dive.
Always. What are we diving into today?
Today, it's going to be a wild one. We're catapulting ourselves straight into the future.
Oh, I like the sound of that.
We're talking AI rewriting the rulebook on biology and chemistry.
Sounds right up our alley.
Our guide on this adventure is this Italian engineer, Fabio Di Bello.
And what does he have to say?
He is completely convinced that we're on the verge of something absolutely massive.
Like what?
Like paradigm shift, massive, you know?
Wow, that's a bold claim.
Yeah, no kidding. So he starts off by saying that we need to start looking at biology and chemistry through a completely different lens.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What kind of lens are we talking about?
He calls it the lens of information theory.
Information theory, huh? That sounds a little intimidating.
I know, right? I had the same thought. Like, what does that even mean?
Yeah, break it down for us.
Well, it's like this. Imagine looking at DNA as the software code of life, right?
Okay, I'm starting to see it now.
So instead of just mixing chemicals in a lab trying to create reactions.
Which is how it's pretty much always been done, right?
Exactly. But he's saying we need to try to understand the underlying information.
The underlying information.
Like the information that governs how those chemicals interact.
Okay.
How they build these complex systems, how they essentially create life itself.
So it's like we're trying to crack the code.
You got it. Crack the code of life.
Yeah.
And Di Bello is completely convinced that AI is the key to doing that.
Oh, this is starting to get good. AI, huh?
Yeah, he's basically arguing that AI can help us not just decipher the code of life, but rewrite it.
Rewrite it. Hold on a sec. How is that even possible?
Well, he talks about how natural laws themselves, like those governing chemical reactions, can actually be modeled as algorithms.
Whoa, that's kind of blowing my mind right now, thinking about it like that.
Right. It's like we're not just studying biology and chemistry anymore. We're talking about programming them.
Programming them. Wow. Okay, so how do we even begin to do that?
That is where generative AI comes in.
Generative AI. So we're bringing in the big guns now, huh?
It's the key, you see.
All right, so how does it work?
Picture this. Massive data sets of biological information, genomes, protein structures, you name it, we're talking everything.
Okay, I'm picturing it. Lots of data.
And we feed all of that into a powerful AI system.
Like some kind of supercomputer.
Pretty much. And then the AI analyzes all that data to try and uncover the hidden patterns and rules that dictate how these systems actually work.
So it's like we're giving this AI a crash course in all of biology and chemistry combined.
Exactly. And get this, once the AI has learned the underlying rules, it can then use that knowledge to actually design completely new biological components, molecules, even entire systems.
Wait, hold on. Design. Are you saying from scratch? Like, could we create proteins that have never existed before?
You got it. And Di Bello points to the incredible progress being made in protein engineering these days.
Like what?
Well, imagine custom-designed enzymes that can break down pollutants, right, with incredible efficiency. Or how about antibodies tailor-made to target specific cancer cells?
That sounds incredible, but is that even possible?
It's happening. We're talking about having this level of precision and control over biological processes that honestly, just a few years ago, was unimaginable.
I mean, this is starting to sound like something straight out of a science fiction movie. Are you telling me we're on the verge of literally engineering life itself?
That's exactly the direction Di Bello seems to think we're headed in, and he says that the potential applications are staggering.
Okay, like, give me an example.
Well, let's take personalized medicine, right?
Personalized medicine, sure.
But I'm not just talking about personalized medicine as we know it today.
What do you mean?
I'm talking about taking it to a whole other level.
Like what?
Imagine a future where your doctor could prescribe a treatment plan, right? But everything's based on your unique genetic makeup.
Okay, that makes sense. So they could prescribe medications that are tailored to your genes.
Not just medications, even lifestyle changes.
Wow.
But it goes even further than that. They could even factor in your unique microbiome.
So not just personalized medicine, hyper-personalized medicine.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Everything tailored specifically for you based on your own individual biology.
I mean, that's incredible, but also a little bit unnerving at the same time if you think about it.
It's both exciting and a little creepy, I totally agree. But there's no doubt that this technology has the potential to totally revolutionize healthcare as we know it.
Absolutely, that's a given.
So, to be clear, we've talked about understanding this information that underpins all of biology and chemistry.
Right.
And we've touched on how AI can be used to decode and even rewrite that information. But what are the actual tangible things this technology can do today?
Okay, I see what you mean.
Can you give some concrete examples of how this is actually being used right now?
Sure. So, one area where we're already seeing really incredible progress is drug discovery.
Drug discovery makes sense.
Yeah, and as you know, traditionally, developing a new drug has been a painstakingly slow and expensive process.
Oh, tell me about it. Years of research, billions of dollars.
And it's a nightmare. But AI has the potential to completely change that, you see.
Okay, so you're saying AI can speed things up.
Dramatically.
How so?
Well, imagine this. We have these AI algorithms that can analyze these gigantic databases of chemical compounds.
Okay.
And they don't just analyze them, they can actually predict how those compounds will interact with specific biological targets.
So instead of scientists having to test each compound one by one in a lab, the AI can sort of pre-screen them.
It's like having a superpowered chemist analyzing millions of potential drugs in a fraction of the time that it would take a human.
And these AI chemists, they never get tired. They don't need coffee breaks. They can just work 24/7.
Exactly. And we're not just talking about speeding up the process either. AI is actually helping us discover entirely new classes of drugs, drugs that we might never have even thought to look for using traditional methods.
So faster drug discovery and potentially more effective drugs, because we're thinking outside the box.
You're getting it.
Okay, that's huge. I can definitely see the impact there.
Mm.
But what about the personalized aspect of all this?
What about it?
How does that play into drug discovery?
You see, that's where things start to get really, really interesting. Imagine taking your own individual genetic information,
Okay.
and then you combine that with data about your lifestyle, your environment, everything about you.
Okay.
And then we use AI to develop a completely customized treatment plan just for you.
Wow.
We're talking about tailoring therapies to your specific needs.
So not just developing new drugs faster, but making sure those drugs are the best possible fit for each patient.
You got it. Maximizing effectiveness, minimizing side effects.
It's like instead of having a one-size-fits-all approach to healthcare, we're moving towards something much more precise, much more individualistic.
Exactly. And listen to this. This isn't just some futuristic fantasy. This is actually already happening. AI is being used right now to help predict a patient's risk of developing certain diseases. It can help tailor chemotherapy regimens to a tumor's genetic profile.
Wow.
They're even using AI now to develop personalized diets based on an individual's gut microbiome.
Okay, now we're getting back to the microbiome. I knew we'd circle back around to that.
It's everywhere. But how can we use AI to understand and maybe even manipulate those trillions of bacteria that live inside of us?
Yeah, it's a great question.
It all starts with data. We can now sequence the DNA of an individual's microbiome.
So we're talking about getting a snapshot of the types and quantities of bacteria present in a person's gut, right?
Precisely. And once you have all that data, that's where AI really shines.
Because there's just so much information to process. Right?
Exactly. AI can analyze this incredibly complex data set and start to identify patterns and connections that honestly would be impossible for humans to spot.
So in the future, you could go to the doctor, get your blood work done, and at the same time, they could sequence your microbiome.
It's already happening in some places.
And then all of that information fed into an AI system could provide these incredible insights into your overall health.
It's like having a crystal ball for your health, all thanks to AI and the amazing world of the microbiome.
That's one way to put it. So we're not just talking about treating diseases here. We're talking about understanding the complex interplay between our bodies, our genes, and the trillions of microorganisms that call us home, and using that understanding to potentially predict and prevent health problems before they even arise.
That is the ultimate goal. And it all comes down to this revolutionary idea, using data and AI to unlock the secrets of life itself.
This is already a lot to process.
Yeah.
But you know what? We're just getting started. Before we dive deeper into the mind-blowing implications of this technology, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll unpack the revolutionary potential of AI-designed antibiotics and custom-designed microbiomes. Stay tuned. It's going to be epic. But before the break, we were really starting to get into this whole idea of using AI to not just understand life, but to actually, design it.
Right, and it's powerful stuff.
And I have to admit, the idea of AI-designed antibiotics, custom-designed microbiomes, it's both fascinating and a little intimidating at the same time.
It's definitely a brave new world we're stepping into, but let's start with the antibiotics.
Yeah.
Because that's an area where we desperately need some serious game changers.
Yeah, no doubt about that.
Antibiotic resistance is a growing threat, and frankly, some experts are saying it could be a bigger killer than cancer in the coming decades.
It's a pretty grim picture.
It is.
So how exactly is AI being used to kind of fight back against these superbugs?
Well, one way is by turbocharging the drug discovery process, you see.
Okay.
Imagine AI sifting through these massive databases of chemical compounds,
Okay.
analyzing their structures, predicting their properties, and identifying those with the potential to actually knock out these resistant bacteria.
So it's like giving the AI a crash course in chemistry and microbiology and then just setting it loose on a mountain of data.
Exactly. And the amazing thing is AI, it's not limited by the same biases or assumptions that might constrain a human researcher.
Yeah.
It can spot these patterns and connections that we might miss entirely, and that can lead to the discovery of completely new classes of antibiotics.
So we're not just talking about like tweaking existing antibiotics here. We're talking about like completely new weapons in the fight against superbugs.
Completely new weapons that we never even would have thought of.
That's incredible. Are there any real-world examples of this actually happening yet?
Oh, absolutely. There's a new antibiotic called halicin
Halicin.
that was actually discovered using AI.
Wow, and how did that work?
The researchers basically fed the AI information on over 107 million different chemical compounds.
107 million.
And within a matter of days, it had identified halicin as a potential antibiotic.
Hold on, days. You're saying it took an AI a matter of days to analyze what would have taken human researchers years, if not decades, to sift through.
That's the power of AI. It can process and analyze these massive amounts of data at speeds we can only dream of.
It's mind-blowing.
And in the case of halicin, it led to the discovery of this antibiotic that's effective against a wide range of these drug-resistant bacteria.
Okay, so that's one very impressive example. But what about the personalized aspect of this technology?
Yeah.
How can AI help us tailor antibiotic treatments to individual patients?
Oh, that's the holy grail, isn't it?
It is.
And it's a great question. Right now, doctors often have to just prescribe antibiotics based on their best guess as to what type of bacteria is actually causing the infection, right?
Right.
But AI has the potential to change all that.
So you're saying we could use AI to identify the specific strain of bacteria that's causing an infection and then choose the most effective antibiotic for that particular strain.
Exactly. We're talking about taking the guesswork out of it.
That would be incredible.
And this kind of personalized approach could be a game changer in the fight against antibiotic resistance because by using antibiotics more precisely, you reduce the chances of bacteria developing resistance in the first place.
It's like using a scalpel instead of a sledgehammer.
Perfect analogy. And it highlights the potential of AI to not only develop these new treatments, but to also make existing treatments more effective and more sustainable in the long run.
Okay, so we've covered the incredible potential of AI-designed antibiotics. But what about this other kind of mind-blowing concept? Custom-designed microbiomes. That still sounds a little bit like science fiction to me.
It does sound like something straight out of Star Trek, right?
It does.
But it's actually not as far-fetched as it might seem. Remember our gut microbiome? Those trillions of bacteria living in our intestines, they play a huge role in our overall health.
Right. I've heard it called our second brain because of how much it influences everything from our digestion to our immune system, even our mood.
It's incredible. And just like we can now sequence our own human genome to understand our own genetic predispositions,
Right.
we can also analyze the composition of our gut microbiome.
So you're saying we can get like a readout of the types and quantities of bacteria that are living in our gut, and what can we actually do with that information?
That's where AI steps in and works its magic.
Okay.
By analyzing this data, AI can identify patterns and connections between specific bacteria and various health conditions.
Give me an example.
For example, certain types of bacteria might be associated with a higher risk of developing inflammatory bowel disease,
Okay.
while other types of bacteria might actually be linked to improved mental health.
So it's like having a personalized health report,
Yeah,
but it's based on the trillions of tiny tenants that are living in your gut.
exactly. It's like having a microscopic crystal ball.
But it's one thing to identify these connections, right? It's another thing to actually do something about them. How can we actually use this information to improve our health?
That is the million-dollar question, and that's where the concept of custom-designed microbiomes comes in.
Okay, so walk me through this. What kind of recommendations are we talking about here?
Well, it could be anything from dietary changes to personalized probiotic supplements.
Okay.
For example, if your microbiome analysis reveals that you're lacking certain beneficial bacteria, the AI could recommend specific foods or supplements that promote the growth of those bacteria.
Okay.
Or if you're at risk for a particular gut-related condition, the AI could suggest dietary changes or lifestyle interventions that have been shown to reduce that risk.
So it's like having a personal nutritionist and microbiome coach all rolled into one.
Exactly. And the beauty of this whole approach is that it's based on your unique microbiome profile, not some generic one-size-fits-all advice.
This is incredible. It seems like the possibilities are pretty much endless.
The possibilities are endless.
But before we get too carried away with all the exciting potential, let's maybe shift gears for a moment and talk about some of the challenges and considerations that come with this level of personalized healthcare.
That's a really good point because it's important to remember that we're still in the very early stages of this technology, and there are many hurdles to overcome before it becomes widely available and accessible to everyone.
Of course.
But it's certainly a fascinating and incredibly promising area of research.
No doubt about it. All right, so we've been on this incredible journey through the world of AI-powered biology and chemistry,
Yeah.
and I gotta say, my mind is officially blown.
Mine too. It's amazing stuff.
We've talked about rewriting the rules of drug discovery, personalizing medicine like never before, even the potential for custom-designed microbiomes.
It's like science fiction, but it's really happening.
But our friend Fabio Di Bello, he doesn't stop there, does he?
No, he does not. It keeps going.
He takes this whole concept of AI as a tool for understanding and manipulating life to a whole other level.
A whole other level. Okay, I'm ready.
He's suggesting that it could help us unravel some of the biggest mysteries in biology.
Like what, for example?
Things like the origins of life itself,
Wow.
and even the nature of consciousness.
Okay, now we're really going deep. Those are questions that have puzzled philosophers and scientists for centuries.
Right. I mean, how can we possibly use algorithms and data to understand something as fundamental as, like, the spark of life?
It's a bold claim for sure.
Yeah.
But Di Bello, he argues that AI's ability to analyze these massive data sets and identify these complex patterns, he thinks that could hold the key.
Okay, so how would that even work?
Imagine feeding an AI system all the data we have on the early Earth.
Oh.
Its atmosphere, its oceans, the chemical building blocks that were present billions of years ago.
So we're talking about, like, creating a simulation of the early Earth.
Right.
Like a giant virtual petri dish.
Exactly. And by tweaking the parameters of that simulation, running it countless times with slightly different starting conditions, he thinks we could potentially recreate the conditions that gave rise to life.
So it's like running a million different versions of the Big Bang in a computer and trying to figure out which combination of factors led to the emergence of life as we know it.
That's a great way to put it. It's about using AI to explore this vast landscape of possibilities and to try to identify the most likely scenarios for how life first arose on our planet.
That's incredible. And it's not just about understanding the past, right?
Right.
Di Bello believes that this kind of AI-powered research could also help us predict the future of life on Earth,
The future.
potentially even guiding our search for extraterrestrial life.
It's mind-blowing when you think about it.
Okay, now that's a whole other level of mind-blowing. But what about consciousness? That always felt like more of a philosophical question to me.
Yeah.
It's something that science couldn't quite grasp. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a tough nut to crack, for sure. But Di Bello seems to think that AI could be helpful here as well.
Okay.
He points out that AI is already being used to study brain activity,
Okay.
to identify patterns and correlations that are associated with different states of consciousness.
So are you saying that we could use AI to, like, read minds?
Well, not quite reading minds, but perhaps decoding the neural language of consciousness.
What do you mean?
Imagine being able to map the activity of billions of neurons in the brain and then using AI to identify the specific patterns of activity that correspond to different conscious experiences. Thoughts, emotions, sensations, you name it.
So it's like creating a dictionary that translates between the electrical signals in our brains and the subjective experiences that we feel.
Exactly. And while we're still a long way from fully understanding consciousness, AI could give us the tools to start asking the right questions.
Right.
And to test hypotheses in ways that were never before possible.
This is all incredibly exciting and a little bit daunting at the same time, you know?
It is a lot to take in.
We're talking about using AI to unravel the deepest mysteries of life, the universe, everything.
It's a lot to think about.
It's both humbling and awe-inspiring.
It really puts things into perspective, doesn't it? It highlights the incredible power and potential of AI,
Yeah.
not just as a tool for solving practical problems, but also as a partner in our quest to understand the world around us and our place in it.
Well said. And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive into the world of AI and its impact on biology and chemistry.
It's been quite a ride.
We've covered a lot of ground today, From the nuts and bolts of AI-powered drug discovery to the mind-bending possibilities of simulating the origins of life and decoding the neural language of consciousness.
Lots to think about.
The future of AI and its role in shaping our understanding of life is still being written, and it's up to all of us to ensure that it's a future filled with wonder, discovery, and of course, a healthy dose of responsibility.
I think that's a great place to leave it. Thanks for having me. It's always a pleasure diving into these topics with you.
Always a pleasure having you. And to all our listeners out there, thanks for joining us on this incredible adventure. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and never stop being amazed by this incredible world we live in.